Jeremiah 10, it says, "Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel." The Israelites, the 12 tribes. We got 12 tribes posted in here? No. That's one thing we need to do, the 12 tribes posted in here. But 12 tribes of Israel, so-called blacks, Latinos, American Indians here in the West, plus the dispersed throughout the four corners of the world. Verse 2, it says, "Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them." Right? So he said, don't do none of that sun worship culture. Don't do none of that Saturn culture worship. Alright? Don't do none of that. Alright? Because the heathen, all the heathen holidays are based around, astronomy, based around worshiping the sun, based around worshiping the moon, based around worshiping the stars and planets and things like that. That's why they give the planets the names of the Roman gods, because that's who they worshipped. Alright, that's why it's called Saturnalia. Because with the Romans, they, instead of worshiping the sun on that day, they said, oh, well, the sun's going away, let's worship Saturn on this day. That's the whole winter solstice Saturnalia connection. Alright? It is not Christian, it's pagan. Alright? But these days, those are synonymous. Alright, verse 3, it says, "For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe." You see that right there? Don't they cut a tree out of the forest and put it in their house on this day? Even before this day, all the month of December. And some put it up before then. But anyway, the tree, the custom of the tree. They deck it with silver and with gold. That's the tinsel that you have on the tree. That's the ornaments that you have on the tree. That's what they did in Babylon. It's not of Christ. How does that have anything to do with Christ? You taking a whole tree, not even a cross that he was crucified on, you taking a whole tree and you decking it with silver and gold, like the ancient Babylonians. Alright? "For the customs of the people are..." Oh, I just read that. My bad. It says, "They deck it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not." That's your tree stand. You have to put it in a tree stand so it don't fall over, right? They were doing the same thing in Babylon. Alright? "They are upright as the palm tree," because they didn't have evergreen trees in Babylon. They had palm trees. Alright? The same thing like in Florida and in California today. They use the palm tree as a Christmas tree. In areas where they don't have the evergreen, because that came later in when Europeans adopted the custom. They started using the evergreen tree then. Before then, it was the palm tree. And still in places where there are palm trees, they use palm trees. They're upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born. Right? They don't speak, they have to be carried, because they cannot go. "Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." Right, so a tree in your house is not good or evil, right? And he says, Jeremiah here is speaking specifically to the Israelites. Right here, that's going into Babylon. He's saying, look, don't do the customs of the people of Babylon. The reason why the Babylonians did this is because they believed that their sun god came back in the form of a tree, right? And if you didn't put gifts under the tree would come to life and kill you and your family, right? That's why they put the gifts up under the tree. So Jeremiah is saying, look, why? Don't look at these trees as something that can do good or bad. They can't harm you. They're trees. That's what Jeremiah is trying to tell the people. But the custom remained through the ages. Even though people don't think the tree's going to attack them these days, the custom remained through the ages. Remember what it said earlier. It says, learn not the way of the heathen. Don't do what they do. Don't do what everyone else does. Do what the Bible says to do. That's what the whole Bible is about. From Genesis to Revelation. Is God telling his people, don't do what everyone else does. Do what the Bible says instead. Keep my commandments. Keep my laws. God has feast days. Around the wintertime, he has Hanukkah. And towards the end of winter, he has Purim. Alright? God has high holy days to keep. Christmas is not one of those days. It's never ordained in the Bible. And God never said to ordain your own days. That's what Jeroboam, that's one of his major sins, is he ordained his own day to keep. And God judged him severely for it. Alright? But anyway, learn not the way of the heathen, for the customs of the people are vain. All right? And the last thing I want to touch on, because I don't want to spend a whole lesson on this. I got a whole other topic that I want to talk about. All right? This is Colossians 2 and 8. So from the Old Testament to the New Testament, Colossians 2 and verse 8. It says, beware lest any man spoil you, meaning rob you, through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. That's what these Hellenistic days are. The traditions of men, they are not of God. All right, Christmas, even though it has the name of Christ attached to it, it is not of God. All right, Thanksgiving, even though you can find the term Thanksgiving in the Bible, it was never ordained. You're supposed to thank God every day. All right, Halloween is not ordained by God. The Catholic Church said All Saints Day, but God never ordained that. All right, and even Halloween the night before, when they dress up like characters and things like that, that come from idolatrous customs as well, where they would dress up in masks so their idol god would not come and kill them in the night, or so the spirits or whatever that were in Ireland, whatever they believed, that they would not come and kill them at night. All right, all of these customs of the people are vain. They're not of God. They have no value. All right, Easter is literally named after a Babylonian goddess, Ishtar. It's a fertility custom. It's a Hellenistic day. Why do you think it has rabbits and eggs? Rabbits don't lay eggs. It's a fertility symbol. All right? It's not the Passover, right? The Passover is what God gives us in the spring. 50 days after that, he gives us another one for the summer called Pentecost. All right? Then you got tabernacles in the fall. God ordained high holy days for every season. Why do you need to go by what the tradition of men do? It's not after Christ. If you read the Bible, Jesus never kept Halloween, never kept Thanksgiving, never kept Christmas, never kept Easter. He kept the Passover, Pentecost, Feast of Tabernacles, even the Feast of Dedication. That was ordained during the Maccabean era, all right? That's what we need to do. Don't be doing this foolishness Monday, man. That's not of God. If you do this foolishness Monday, called Christmas, you're sealing your fate with the many who will be slain when the Lord comes. I'm telling you straight. I don't want everybody to die, but that's the route that y'all going down. All right? The only thing we can do is to separate ourselves from the world. That's the only thing we can do, is follow after Christ and not after the tradition of men or the rudiments of the world. All right? So, with that, let's actually get into it. Let's actually get into the lesson. This is the main thing I want to talk about here. There's some other things happening. There's some other things happening in the world right now, without a doubt. The state of Israel is stopping aid from coming into Gaza like they always do, like they always have done since they've been over there. All right, and all the war going on around the Red Sea has caused people to go around and clog the ports in Africa and things like that. So that thing that's happening between Israel and Gaza is affecting the rest of the world as well. It's not just staying in that area, it's spreading. And eventually, they will be drawing all nations down there to the Valley of Jehoshaphat. But I don't want to talk about that. We talk about that all the time, it seems like. And I don't want this to be, the Israel and Gaza class every week. So, what's another thing? What was the guy's name? Edward McLean, I think. What's the brother's name who died in Colorado? Elijah McLean. How did I forget Elijah? It says right there that the paramedics were found guilty, and in the case of Elijah McLean, they give him a sedative, a very powerful sedative, a very powerful downer or tranquilizer is another word for sedative. After he had been assaulted by police, that led to his death. So now the paramedics are being found guilty. So we can only praise God for that thing, that they are being judged accordingly, because it actually does mean the tides are turning, that we are towards the end of this captivity, because we know that originally that was not happening. Originally, if you killed a black man who was unarmed and had anything to do with the police or the paramedics, you would just go free. So now we see that tide turning, so praise God for that thing. But what I really wanted to touch on, I just touched on all those things briefly. What I really wanted to touch on was this right here. It says, when children take toxic cough syrup and live, all right, meaning usually they die when they drink this toxic cough syrup. And we'll tie it back around to like lean or whatever, but that's not what this is talking about. This isn't talking about lean. This is talking about going to the doctor to get your cough syrup, and then that cough syrup turns out to be poisonous. That's what this is going into. It says, well, up here, this image, it says, Desi Permatasari tends to her daughter, Sheena Almera Miriam, aged 5, in their house in Bogor, West Java Province, Indonesia. Now, we're not going to read this whole thing. It's a very long article, but we just want some key points. Excuse me. There's more than 120 children in Indonesia survived after being given poisonous medicine. Now, when we say poisonous medicine, this isn't like every 10% of people who ingest it die. That would be also poisonous. But this is like almost 100% of the people who ingested this died. All right, 9 out of 10, I think, was the actual statistic. But we'll get into that in a minute. A year on, families have yet to receive help caring for their children. All right. So in Jakarta being in Indonesia, devouring books from a young age, Sheena Almera Miriam had been excited about her first day of kindergarten near Jakarta. But when she developed a fever in September of 2022, the syrup she was prescribed turned out to be toxic. It ravaged her internal organs. Now the 5-year-old spends her days lying in a room lined with Hello Kitty wallpaper, staring blankly up at a baby mobile. For her mother, Desi Permatasari, told Reuters. All right, so you had this young baby at 5 years old. She's ready to start going to school. She's ready to read books. She likes reading books. She likes learning. And now she can't even move because of this poisonous medicine, which is an oxymoron. But you know, we'll get into what we should do going forward. All right. Sheena is one of hundreds of children from Gambia to Uzbekistan found by national authorities and the World Health Organization, the WHO, to have been poisoned by contaminated medicinal syrups in the past 2 years. All right, so even on the lean tip, keep that in mind. They are poisoning these syrups. You better not get a bad batch. It's like they did with the cocaine and fentanyl. All right? You get a bad batch and you're dead. There is no second chances. Just keep that in mind. All right? In one of the largest episodes of such contamination on record. And it says from Gambia to Uzbekistan, that's where they found these things. So they found these things or rather, they shipped this poisonous syrup into Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. I wonder what the connection is there. All right. The rash of poisonings led to criminal probes and lawsuits in at least 4 countries, a surge in regulatory scrutiny, and families with children dead or disabled. All right. We're about to get into some of these numbers in a second. It says more contaminated syrups were found in new regions this month, and the WHO has said they could continue to be found for several years. All right, so this isn't something that is just going away overnight. These contaminated syrups are out here already, ready to do more damage to people. All right, Sheena lives in the worst affected country. More than 200 children in Indonesia died of acute kidney injury caused by the poison. Right, so the body could not even flush it out soon enough before the people died. The children died. All right. Indonesia also has the most survivors, 122 children, according to Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin. The ministry says most have since been cured, but 6 are still undergoing treatment, right? So normally the medicine is the cure, but they have to be cured of this medicine. You see the way the world has been turned upside down? You see how wickedness has pervaded through the world? Some of them, like Sheena, have crippling disabilities. Reuters images of them at home offer a rare look at survivors and their parents in the aftermath of Indonesia's contamination tragedy. The news agencies also interviewed 3 of the families. And when it says contamination, contamination implies that there was a certain procedure, but somebody messed up the procedure and put something else in there. But really what happened is that there was no oversight. And people just started, or rather the companies just started dumping chemicals in there to cut it, essentially. All right? The doctor said her brain is damaged from the poison. You see that right there? They got syrup out here that can damage your brain and your internal organs like poison. All right, says Sheena's mother. She can only lay down. She can't even get up anymore. That baby cannot even run around and play no more. All right. The toxins were contaminated in the toxins were contained in syrups made by at least 3 Indonesian drug makers, according to national regulators and the WHO. So a contamination? Remember how I just described a contamination? This is not a contamination. There's no way that 3 companies can be contaminated the same way. That's not how that works. All right, that's not how contamination works, unless this is a domestic terroristic plot by somebody who just wanted to contaminate these drug companies. And it doesn't seem that way. It seems more like these drug companies wanted to cut their product to make more money. That's what it seems like. All right? One, Afi Pharma, has been prosecuted along with 2 raw material suppliers, CV Samudera Chemical and CV Anugera Perdana Gamilang. Right? So that's 3 of the companies that are being charged with, murder is what they should be charged with, but neglect seems to be what they're being charged with. 2 being the raw materials providers and Afi Pharma being another one. All right. In November, 4 Afi Pharma officials, including Chief Executive Arif Prasetya Harahap and 2 officials from each of the suppliers, were convicted of violating pharmaceutical production laws. Naturally, as they should be. They should be charged with murder, but they didn't go that far. The Afi Pharma executives were each sentenced to 2 years in jail. The other 4 got 10 years each. So notice how the pharmaceutical executives got a lesser sentence than the raw materials handlers, right? Even though, if you know anything about business, you know that the raw materials handlers answer to the larger company that they are giving their products to. All right. In fact, a lot of raw materials handlers, I don't know the case with these companies in Indonesia, but in a lot of cases, the raw material handlers are actually owned by the larger company that they do business with. That's very common when it comes to business practices. All right. So 10 years for the raw materials handlers and 2 years for the pharmaceutical executives. All right. Even though they all had a hand in murdering children. Not even like a couple of children. Even if they had killed a couple of children, they still should be going to jail for murder and accessories to murder. All right, that's what they should be going to jail for. But they killed hundreds of children all over Asia and Africa. get 2 years for the bigwigs and the pharmaceutical company, and 10 years for the little guy, the raw materials handling facilities. All right, I'm not trying to go down that far. Come on now. Here we go. The brightly colored AFI pharma syrups, such as the medicine taken by Sheena, contained ethylene glycol, a commonly used chemical in products such as brake fluid and antifreeze. So to make more money, these pharmaceutical companies cut their syrups, as it says they were brightly colored, to attract the eye of children. Right? These children would just be going to the store with their mom, to the market or whatever, and they look for the medicine to give them, and then the child is like, oh, I like cherry, let me get the bright red one. Right? Because the bright colors are not to attract the parents, it's to attract the children. They want the things that are brightly colored, the things that are, stand out to them. Meanwhile, they're cutting their medicine with brake fluid or antifreeze, whichever one you want to say. Regardless, it's both poison. All right? It says the EG concentration in the syrup was as high as 99%. 99% antifreeze is what they were giving their children. Of course, they just went to the doctor, who gave them a prescription. That prescription told them to pick this up. They had no idea that this would kill their children. All right? 99%, court documents showed. International standards say only a trace amount of EG, 0.1%, is safe in the legal base ingredient, propylene glycol. All right, so propylene glycol, that's what's safe. They're cutting it with brake fluid. All right? Said 99% at the base. Obviously, you take the base and you dilute it with water, and that's how you get a liquid. But 99% brake fluid in this medicine. All right? And it said on November 2nd, 2022, the WHO warned that 8 products made by 4 companies, including Pharma, contain dangerous levels of EG or related toxin, diethylene glycol. So that's ethylene would be like 1 ethyl molecule, or 1 ethyl molecule. Diethylene would be 2. All right, it's probably twice as dangerous. The Pharma executives deny intentionally supplying drugs containing deadly ingredients and have appealed. Their lawyer, Rezawendra Prayogo, told Reuters. Now, here in America, we have experience dealing with these companies. Not only these pharmaceutical companies, which, we've had the whole opioid crisis here based on the fact that pharmaceutical companies don't care about the people. They care more about the profits that they're making, and they know if they can get the people hooked on a certain product, then they can make more money. So we know that the pharmaceutical companies are not having these people's best interests at heart. Where they think that they've messed up is their poison actually killed the people. It didn't just give them the chemical hook to come back, it killed them, right? They cut it with too much poison. All right? It's fine if it slowly kills them over time, but it made them drop dead instantly, right? So they said, my bad, we'll put a little bit less poison in it next time. All right? Officials at the 2 suppliers, CB Samudera Chemical and CB Anugera Pradana Gimilan, did not respond for request for comment. All right. It said Indonesia's food and drug regulator, Badan POM, told Reuters in May it has tightened its import rules and increased inspections by 20%. So if this was all an Indonesian problem, why did they say that they would tighten their import rules? It's Because it's not an Indonesian problem. It's not an Indonesian company doing this, making this, or rather, setting these standards. This is coming from business influences outside the country. All right, so probably from China. I don't even know if we'll get into that, but China is the one who has the main influence over all the countries in that region. So I can only assume it's China. Could be America, but America doesn't have a very good relationship with Indonesia. Hasn't since like the 50s when America tried to destroy, what was that, Timor? Timor down there, one of the islands. But anyway, it said, did not respond to subsequent requests for comment. President Joko Widodo's office did not respond to questions, right? So let's look into President Joko Widodo real quick. Let's look into this guy real quick, see what's going on with him. President Joko Widodo. All right, we're not going to go to Wikipedia. I would rather, there's an article that I've seen that I liked. Let's see, where is that? Yeah, where is this at that I'm looking for? Let's go, President of Indonesia. Because there's a specific article that I'm looking for. It come up with it when I type that, so let's see if it comes up this time. CNBC, here we go. This is what I was looking at. Now, obviously, CNBC, they got their liberal bias, right? And I say liberal specifically, not leftist, because those are different things. But it said, ahead of Indonesia's elections, critics slammed Jokowi for nepotism and dynastic politics. All right? Let's just get to the point. Those are bullet points. Let's get to the article. It said, a year before stepping down as Indonesia's president, Joko Widodo is facing serious allegations of establishing a political dynasty through nepotism. The 61-year-old, known at home as Jokowi, is due to leave office in October 2024 after completing the maximum 2 terms as president. But critics and analysts say the leader, who has enjoyed consistently high approval ratings throughout his near decade-long tenure, is attempting to retain power through members of his close family. See, that sounds a lot like Trump, all right? And that's basically what Trump did. He inspired countries around the world, or rather, these shady businessmen around the world, these shady politicians around the world, to shut off the filter and just go full, I ain't gonna say the word that I want to say there, because a lot of people don't like that word no more, but go, what Robert Downey Jr. said in Tropic Thunder, going full R-word, alright? It says his eldest son right here. Last month, his eldest son, Gibran Rakabumi? Yeah, it's like Raka, 36, was officially named the vice presidential running mate of Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto for the February 14th general election race under the right-wing Gerindra party. Now, right-wing just means they want less regulations on business. And as we had just seen with what's going on over there, less regulation in business means more people die due to the carelessness of the products produced by businesses. All right. It says that came just days before the country changed the eligibility criteria for presidential or vice presidential candidates, allowing individuals under the age of 40 to register for either role if they previously held regional posts. Gibran is the mayor of Solo, right? So as soon as he was allowed by law to join one of the political parties, he did. All right, this is the son of the current president of Indonesia. That's his firstborn, I think. That's what it says, right? Eldest son, yeah. The Constitutional Court, which was held by the president's brother-in-law, Anwar Usman, at the time, was widely criticized for changing the law, which enabled Jokowi's son to contest the election. The court's ethics council The court's ethics council, has since ordered Anwar to be removed from his post as Chief Justice after finding him guilty of ethics violations. And as we're going to see, Jokowi has family members and has people in every place. All right? He has people all over the place. All right? It says, according to the poll in mid-October by Compass Research and Development, 60.7% of respondents consider the participation of Jokowi's eldest son, Ibrahim, in the election as a form of dynastic politics. So the majority of people in Indonesia do not like this, that he's doing this, that he has his tendrils all over the place, that he has his family members, that he has his sons, his son-in-law, his brother-in-law, in all sorts of different places. That's why they're calling him nepotistic. They're calling him, they're saying he has nepotism, all right? It says most respondents see this kind of politics as tending to prioritize family interests over the interests of society. I'm going to read that one again. It said most respondents see this kind of politics as tending to prioritize family interests over the interests of society. So the interest of society would tell you, oh, we need to regulate these pharmaceutical companies so they don't give our children poison. That's what the interest of society would tell you. But the family interest would be like, well, they can cut a few corners as long as they pay me and my brother-in-law and my son and my other son and my son-in-law. We'll let them get away with it. All right? And obviously I'm being hyperbolic, but all those people, as you can see here, it talked about his brother-in-law right here, right in this one, Anwar Usman. Talked about his eldest son. It goes on to talk about his youngest son and his son-in-law. All right? His youngest son. Separately, Jokowi's youngest son, Kaisang Pangarap, was appointed chairman of the Indonesian Solidarity Party in September, a few days after he officially became a party member. So, you see how his oldest son was in one party, his youngest son is in a different party, all right? It's so that he can have influence every which way, all right? PSI, which launched in 2018, focuses on young voters through issues like women's rights, pluralism, and corruption, right? So they're more the liberal side of things. The other one is more the business side, the conservative side of things. But this son said, I'm going to go the liberal route. So now, even if these two face off together in a presidential race, it's the same family. All right? Similar to what we have here in America, but here in America it's a little bit more diluted. They're all related as far as the presidents are concerned. They're all related. Even Barack Obama was related distantly to these people. All right? That's how they do things. They set up their family members. All right? It hopes to secure seats in the House of Representatives for the first time in the upcoming election. All right. Then his son-in-law, Bobby Nasution. Adding to Jokowi's political chessboard is also his son-in-law, Bobby Nasution, the current mayor of Medan. All right. And one thing that you'll look into, that's one of the ways that I know these Indonesians are Israelites. They're a tribe of Zebulun. One way that I know is that most of their cities are named after like biblical things. Like Medan is a Hebrew word in the Bible, right? Same as Java is very similar to Javan, you know. But anyway, Jokowi is trying to retain political influence through his sons and son-in-law, Medan Mayor Bobby Nasution, said Julia Lau, a senior fellow and co-coordinator of the Indonesian Studies program in Singapore's IC's Yusuf Ishak Institute. So I don't know if that was set up by Jewish people or whatever, because that's way too Hebrew to just overlook. The Yushaf, or rather the Yusuf Ishak Institute, that's the Joseph Isaac Institute. That's what it looks like. IC's. Act of Parliament in 1968. I'm not going to look into it right now. Maybe later. But I don't see anybody saying that this is established by Jewish people. But Singapore is always, very like business centric. Singapore itself as a country was just established to have a location where everybody can do business over there, similar to Hong Kong. But anyway, back home. Jacoby's loyalists are reportedly outraged. Even his loyalists don't even like what's going on, saying that cabinet ministers within his inner circle have accused him of seeking to hang onto power through judicial interference and nepotism. So even the people who like him saying, okay, yeah, this is going too far. This is definitely nepotism at this point, right? Wonder if them MAGA folks will ever say that about Trump, about how, he's establishing his cabinet and things like that. I doubt it, because a lot more people around the world are more sane than Americans. But anyway, let's keep reading. It says, according to Reuters, Andy Wijajanto, once Jacoby's right-hand man, resigned from his post as governor of the National Resilience Agency after the Constitutional Court ruling. Andy, who called the timing of his resignation deliberate, said, as someone that worked with Jacoby for a long time, I am very, very disappointed in him. As if they didn't know that this was there, right? They knew that he was doing all this stuff. All right. Nepotistic strategies. Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to get to. It says it also weighs heavily on Jacoby's reputation. The former furniture salesman captured national hearts when he became the country's first leader who didn't come from a political or military background, raising hopes of a pushback against elitist-led systems. Does that sound familiar? I'm telling you, Trump, what he did internationally that affected the world the most was that he put it in the minds of these sleazy businessmen and outcasts of politics to rise up and go unfiltered, say they're going to attack the elitists in their country who are making things worse. But then once they get in office, they rub shoulders with those people. They have meetings with those people. They shake hands with those people. They do deals with those people. And they line their own pockets at the same time. All right? That's what Jacoby did. And this should tell you all you need to know. He's a former furniture salesman. That lets you know what he really wants is money. What's really on his mind is money. He's a salesman. So naturally, he let these pharmaceutical companies do whatever they wanted. And here you have children dying because of it. And I keep stressing that because I don't want the gravity of this situation to be lost on anyone, all right? What his actions and lack of regulations led to the death of children in his country, but also abroad because, and you could even say that it wasn't necessarily his actions that led to the deaths of the children in Gambia to Uzbekistan, right? All the way across Africa and the Middle East and South Asia. But certainly the deaths in his country are on his hands. And as I said, he's an Israelite too, but this is some very Northern Kingdom stuff. All right, when I say that, I mean it sounds exactly like the type of stuff that the Northern Kingdom did in the scriptures. All right, never righteous, always on some foolishness. All right, I say never righteous, I mean after the split. All right, once the split happened, that's when Northern Kingdom fell off completely. And this is the same type of stuff, the nepotism, the putting your family members, I mean, it's very worldly, very like the Gentiles, I'll put it like that. All right, so of course to get ahead, he's stomping on his own people and it doesn't matter to him. But let's get to the Bible. We spent enough time on that. So you may think like doctors can't be trusted now. And that's a very astute observation, and it's obviously has some weight to it. Now that you see what's going on. We talk about this when we talk about Alexander, right? What these doctors, under this current world that we live in, where the merchants live as kings, right? And what they call now capitalism, the love of money rules all things in this world that we live in. Doctors, if they want to get paid, then they have to, rub shoulders and shake hands with some very shady individuals and push their pharmaceutical products. That's what happened with Ozempic. And the like, the Xanaxes, the Oxycontins, you name it. All right, it come from doctors pushing this onto their patients so that they could get a pay increase. But I'm not going to sit here and say don't go to the doctor. I'm going to say what I do, and what I'm going to say is use the doctor as a last resort. Use it as a tool for healing. Like it says here in Sirach 38, I don't want this to be lost on anyone. It says, honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the uses which ye may have of him, for the Lord hath created him. So God made doctors. All right, so it's not a sin to go to the doctor. It's not guaranteed that they will, give you something that will kill you, right? For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king. All right, so from God come healing. So that's what we got to understand first and foremost. From God come healing. Even when the doctor gives you the medicine, that's for you to be healed if God wills it, right? Because there's plenty of cases where people have gone to the doctor sick, the doctor gives them some medicine, and then the medicine just not work. Why is that? Because God wanted to kill that person or to make them worse before he healed them, right? It says, the skill of the physician shall lift up his head, and in the sight of great men he shall be in admiration, right? That's how doctors are supposed to be. They're supposed to be held in admiration. But listen to this next part. It says, the Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. So God made medicines that are natural, all right? And now these days they say that, holistic medicines, they kind of laugh at the idea that you're only using, herbs and flowers and, roots and things to heal yourself, right? They laugh at that. But that's what God made, all right? God didn't make Ozempic. God didn't make Xanax. God didn't make cough syrup. You know what God made? God made honey and lime juice. Lemon juice, I suppose. That's what heals your vocal cords, is honey, lime juice, lemon juice. You need that citrus. All right? Those are the things that will heal your throat. All right? God made these things. All right? He that is wise will not abhor them. Was not the water made sweet with wood, that the virtue thereof might be known? And he hath given men skill, that he might be honored in his marvelous works. You see that right there? So he said, look, if God can put a tree in the water and turn it sweet, he can put together all these other concoctions, right? These balms, these ointments. He can use the oats in a particular lotion that is for healing the skin, right? So all these things God made out of the earth. All right? With such doth he heal men and take away their pains. You see that right there? So, and I know that I believe it's a willow tree, a white willow tree. The bark from that is actually used in healing, right? Used in pain relief, I should say. Of such doth the apothecary make confection. He said, of such, apothecary is similar to a pharmacy. All right, where they concoct things together. But I'm going to tell you, the word pharmacy comes from the Greek pharmakia. And again, we talked about this when we talked about Ozempic, which means witchcraft. All right? So they're taking these things that are natural, and then they're combining them together with synthetic materials that turns it into, a more of a potion as opposed to a healing medicine. All right, and that's clearly what they did with this cough syrup as well. They cut it so that they can make profits, and what they cut it with, it seems that they didn't realize would kill people instantly. All right. Of such doth the apothecary make a confection, and of his works there is no end, and from him is peace over all the earth. My son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole. All right, so these are the steps that you need to take whenever you get sick. All right, pray unto the Lord, and he will heal you. Leave off from sin, and order thy hands aright, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness. A lot of sickness comes from the sin. That's where the majority of sicknesses come from. Some comes from uncleanness and being around people that are unclean, but the majority of sickness comes from sin that you're in. All right? So pray to the Lord, get your mind right, stop sinning, give a sweet savor and a memorial of fine flour, make a fat offering as not being. So we know that Christ is our sacrifice these days, and that in the place of sacrifice, we give our bodies as a living sacrifice to live like Christ. So really 10 and 11 is saying the same thing for us today. That's how we apply 10 and 11 is the same way. Leave off from sin. So we have pray to the Lord, leave off from sin. Verse 12, then give place to the physician, for the Lord hath created him. Let him not go from thee, for thou hast need of him. You see that right there? And then it says, there is a time when in their hands there is good success. So, as it says right here, those should be your courses of action that you need to take to be healed. It's pray to God, get yourself right, stop sinning, and then if you're still sick, go to the doctor. All right? There is a case where he can heal you, right? But I must point this out about your own discernment. All right? I must point this out about your own discernment. This is one chapter previous, Sirach in the Apocrypha, 37 and verse 12. It says, but be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee, if thou shalt miscarry. So stay around godly people. Stay in conversation with godly people that you know keep his commandments. All right, that's the difference in a godly person and a not godly person. If you have somebody telling you, oh, believe in Jesus, but you ain't got to do what that Bible says, they're not godly. Run. All right, they're not godly. They're not going to help you. God does not deal with them. If they tell you to reject the word of God, run away. All right. Who will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry, and let the counsel of thine own heart stand, for there is no man more faithful unto thee than it. So this is going into like when you have that gut feeling. When you say something's not right here. I don't know what it is, but I know something is up. Listen to that. All right. That intuition can save you from, any particular situation. Women talk about being in a situation where the guy is making them uncomfortable and they have a gut feeling to get out of there. Listen to that. Listen to that. Especially in that case, because men are wicked. All right? Women are wicked too, but if men would get right, women would get right. And that's a story for another time. But let the counsel of thine own heart stand, for there is no man more faithful unto thee than it. For a man's mind is sometime wont to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above in a high tower. And we've talked about this before, how things used to go in ancient cities. There used to be walls. And you couldn't go into the city at night once they closed the gate unless you speak to the watchmen that are sitting up on the tower. And they would watch for invaders, right? So God said, even more than that, your own mind is willing to tell you when things are going wrong, when something is up. Right? That's that intuition. All right? And above all this, pray to the Most High that he will direct thy way in truth. Right? So if you go to the doctor and the doctor is pushing hard on you a specific medicine that you don't need, then you need to keep that in mind. All right? Listen to your intuition in that case. All right? But above all, because your mind can still play tricks on you, above all, pray to the Most High, and he will direct your way in truth, meaning in the laws of God, all right? In his paths, all right? So again, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Let's go to 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy 6. I believe it's 6. About the love of money. Here it is. 1 Timothy 6 and verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil. So this ain't saying that back in the garden, Eden was, was making it clap for bands. That's not what this is talking about. It's saying that if you love money, you're willing to do anything to get it. That means murder, that means adultery, that means fornication, that means all sorts of wickedness. All right, stealing, covetousness, that's the love of money, it's covetousness, really. But it's the root of all evil, because if you love money, you're willing to let it slide. That, these regulations that you're supposed to have on these pharmaceutical companies, we'll let it slide if you line my pockets a little bit. So there'll be, a couple of dead kids. Who cares, right? Meanwhile, hundreds of kids across many countries dead. All right, that's all evil. That's evil. Which, while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. That's why Christ said, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven, because they love money and will do all evil to get it. All right? So, from there, we touched on medicine a little bit, but use discernment. Use discernment when getting these medicines. And you should know what is in these medicines. In the case of the people in Indonesia, they didn't know what was in their cough syrup because it was lied on the labels, right? I'm sure that the labels didn't say it was 99% ethylene glycol. I'm 100% sure that was not the case. But you should know what your child needs and if that medicine has that in it. Don't just blindly take anything, all right? Do your research, have an understanding, have a discernment as to what to give your children. And be more willing to use more, natural remedies. That doesn't mean just find like grass out of the forest. I'm not talking about that. All right? I know people will see this online and try to twist what I'm saying. I'm not saying reject doctors. I'm not saying, whatever you think I'm saying. Just listen to what I'm actually saying, all right? The natural remedies are what heals you. Even with these pharmaceutical medicines, the only thing that actually heals you in these medicinal properties are what is natural, right? Like even aspirin comes from, I forget what it might actually come from the willow tree, but it comes from a specific tree, right? So have those things in mind when it comes to healing. Don't just, run to the doctor first thing. First thing you need to do is pray to God and make sure that you're not in sin, because that's probably what's causing the disease. And if you're not in sin, if you pray to God, then at that point, if you're still not healing, go to the doctor, all right? So I want to touch on the lean thing real quick, because I'm not going to sit here and say this is like a test run for what they want to do with lean here in America, but it kind of seems that way. That these scissors going all across the world, injuring people, and shutting down their internal organs, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that hits America. And then people just start dropping dead when they're drinking lean. That would not surprise me at all. It would not surprise me at all. So, understand, Romans 12. Romans 12. All right. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. So think soberly, all right? Not only in literal sobriety, but in doctrines that come your way. Think soberly. Think according to the laws of God. Think according to the word of God, all right? So, with that, Titus, real quick, because they talk about sobriety as well. I like that verse a little better when concerning sobriety. It's worded in a way that I like a little more. All right? So this is Titus Titus chapter 2. I'm going to start with verse 1. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine. We know, according to Proverbs 4 and 2, the doctrine that God gives us is his laws. All right? Verse 2. that aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound of faith, and charity, and patience. All right, grave meaning serious, temperate meaning able to control your temper, or in general control yourself. All right, sound of faith, and charity meaning love one another, love thy neighbor as thyself. That's what charity means. And patience, obviously, that's self-explanatory. But the aged men are supposed to be sober. You see aged men out here, when it says aged men, it's like over 40. That's like aged men is over 40. Man, these people over here, these people these days that are in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, some of them, they still think they're 20 years old. All right? Especially amongst Israelites. Especially amongst Israelites. I'm jumping down to verse 6 because 3, 4, and 5 is about women. I'm talking about the men, because that's usually the ones drinking the lean. But it says women be sober as well. But verse 6, it says, young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded. All right? Sober-minded. All right, that lean can kill you. All right, apparently they got lean out here that'll kill you in one sip. In all things, showing thyself a pattern of good works. In doctrine, showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say to you. Right? But these men out here these days, we're talking about murder, adultery, fornication, stealing, and intoxication, the opposite of sobriety. So now every evil thing can be said against these rappers. That's why their lyrics are landing them in jail. Because evil is being said of them because they don't have sound speech. They would have been listening to the scripture, these young men from their youth up. They would have had sound speech that was blameless, that could not be condemned. But instead they are being condemned quite literally. All right? In jail, like Young Thug. All right? So, with that, I'm going to close it out. And again, I do want to make sure that people know that I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. Because a lot of people may misconstrue this and say, oh, Zeke's crazy. He said, don't go to the doctor. They're trying to poison you. That's not what I'm saying. All right? Here in Matthew 26, I'm going to close it out. I'm saying, though, use your discernment. And be aware of the things that are going on. Right? Because now we know, after reading this story, now we know there is a possibility of this poisonous cough syrup coming to the U.S. Is it likely? Maybe not. But it is possible. So be wary of that. All right? You have, obviously it's already around Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. So just be wary of what medicine you're giving to your children.